Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we elevate marketing leaders inside and out. I'm your host, Veronica Rami, master marketer, executive leader, and mentor to ambitious marketing leaders wanting to advance their careers. Each episode is filled with genuine, unscripted conversations with some of the world's top marketing experts, accomplished leaders, and industry trailblazers representing brands, both large and small. Our goal with this podcast and everything we do is to help you master your role, nurture your team, prioritize your well-being, and evolve into an industry-leading rainmaker. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. In this episode, you're going to hear from one of the most distinguished figures in the marketing world who has written 10 best-selling marketing books and worked with renowned companies like Pfizer, Cisco, Dell, Adidas, and the U.S. Air Force. Meet Mark Schaefer, a globally recognized author, keynote speaker, and business consultant with over 3 decades of experience. My number one favorite moment on today's podcast was when we talked about the difference we both felt in our marketing careers between proving energy versus the performer energy. In addition to that, we also discussed the significance of personal branding for ambitious marketers, what sets all of us apart from the ChatGPT revolution, and his essential ingredients for writing books on repeat. So without further ado, let's make it rain with Mark Schaefer. Welcome to the podcast.
I am delighted to be here, Veronica.
Yeah. Okay. Number one, I'm so excited to talk to somebody who's as seasoned, as veteran as you are. You've been in the game for 30 plus years. You've seen marketing in all of its forms.
We could skip that part.
It's important because, there's so many marketers that are entering the scene. They are highly ambitious and they're already hitting this wall of frustration. And when I've polled my audience multiple times and I ask them things like, what is your dream title? What's your dream salary? What I'm finding, statistically speaking, is that where they are in title and salary is nowhere close to where they want to be. Like on average, they want 2 to 3 times their salary, which is wild. But then the question becomes, okay, here's the gap. How do I do that? How do I differentiate myself? And I think it is, if I look at the marketing landscape right now, it's wild. Like there's so many disruptive things happening. I just saw a quote from the Elon Musk that said like AI is taking over the world. And like, of course he would say something like that, right? So I want to pick your brain because again, you've seen the past, the present, and I really think that you have such a beautiful perspective on where the future of marketing, not just marketing opportunity for companies, but marketing opportunity for the marketer, the person yielding the power. Mm-hmm. And so why don't we just kick it off like that? What do you feel is something on the frontier that maybe some of us marketers are sleeping on that are just as ambitious, but equally frustrated?
Well, there's a lot, but if I had to talk about one thing that I've been shouting from the rooftops for many years now, it's really focusing on your personal brand in a systematic and consistent way. And that is the number one thing you can do to have meaning in this world, to create new value in this world. If you're known and other people in your field or your industry aren't, you're going to win. You're going to get more jobs. You're going to get more promotions. You're going to get more customers. You're going to have more opportunities. You're going to get invited to speak on a stage. That won't happen if nobody's ever heard of you before. And I'm not saying be famous. I'm not saying be a TikTok star. What I'm saying is to be mindful about how you show up on the web, to have the presence, the authority, and the reputation to get your job done. It's just going to help you. And as you know, we're in a world, you're seeing it in the headlines every day, where AI is nipping at the heels of our skill sets and AI is going to take our jobs. So let me just give a little illustration of why I think this is the most important thing any of us could be working on. When ChatGPT came out, I wrote words I've never written before. This changes marketing forever today. I didn't say it with the web. I didn't say it with social media. But when you put AI in the hands of everybody in a format that's as easy to use as Google, it changes everything. So I did an interview with a guy named Shelley Palmer. He's a big tech analyst. He's been on the Today Show. He's seen it all. He's done it all before. And I said, well, what do you think about ChatGPT? He said, Mark, I've blogged for every day for 15 years. And he said, I asked ChatGPT to write a blog post for me. It did a fantastic job. He said, I am 80% replaced. Now, that might seem like a startling comment, but here's the part that's more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the 20%? The 20% is his personal brand because people know him, they love him, they trust him, and they always will. I'm not worried because people know me. In the world of misinformation and deep fakes, people are still going to know it's me. I even put in my blog post, Veronica, 100% human content, because I just want to emphasize this is me. This is real. And there will always be a place for that. So literally for lots of reasons, the personal brand is becoming the brand. It's becoming the most important thing you can do for your career. It's going to be where people turn to figure out the truth. So that's a long way for me to I'll get off my soapbox now and say,
No,
you've got to be doing this. Either you're known or you're not. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I know. I completely, first of all your soapboxes are great. So never shy away from those. We love those. But I feel like we say it time and time again, and there's just a lot of hesitancy to like own that you are your number one asset. That's just very uncomfortable for many people if you haven't started to, see yourself in that light. Now, when I reflect back at my own personal branding efforts, like I remember early in my career, it was like the advice that was given was like, okay, don't be a generalist marketer, be a specialist marketer. I'm like, okay. So when I would pitch myself to these marketing conferences, I would want to like specify, and I would specify in skill. So like, okay, SEO or PPC or what, like a particular lane that I could like be known for, machine learning or this. And we still see really successful marketers who have branded themselves in relation to a skill they possess. And we're seeing it again with AI. Now I'm seeing a whole bunch of like AI experts and AI, marketers and things like that. But what happened to me is I fatigued myself out.
Right.
Like at some point, the box that I had drawn on the ground of my brand became now too small, where I'm like, but I'm more than just this. Ugh. And then I had the other issue of like, okay, but how do I expand beyond the skill? And so like, I'm wondering, or I'm curious how you approach personal branding philosophy. Like, generalists, specialists in skill, whether hard skill, soft skill. Like I'm curious how your personal brand is chef's kiss. It's phenomenal. If anybody hasn't gone to your website just for a really great personal brand example, may I advise you to do so. But I'm really curious on your own personal strategy or how you approach it today, given the current climate and conditions.
Yeah, I think it's sort of perilous to put yourself in a narrow lane like you did.
Okay.
I mean, there's some people there's a lady I know, she loves Excel spreadsheets. So she has a YouTube channel teaching people how to, but that's her life and she lives it and she breathes it. And okay, cool, go for it. So she can wear the crown. I am the queen of Excel spreadsheets. More power to you. That's great. But I've also known a lot of people that bet their whole career on Google Plus, and right. So I think it is perilous to bet the ranch on a channel. I mean, I think right now there seems to be 250,000 people who are LinkedIn experts. I mean, is there enough business out there to really build a career on that? Now, here's what I think is something better. I think I'm kind of a generalist, and I'm kind of not. The lane that I love, the lane that is endlessly fascinating to me, is this intersection between marketing and technology and humanity. And so that is a pretty big canvas that I can paint on. I think especially for people that have been around a while, that have established career, that have a voice, an overlooked opportunity is their point of differentiation is them. It's you. You have and I think that's the way it is for me. I mean, I have a very specific, I had a certain career, certain education. I've, written 10 books. I studied under Peter Drucker. There's nobody like me. There's
Yeah.
nobody like Veronica Romney.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you don't want to confuse people. You don't want to say, I'm going to write about Russian history and then write about dog grooming the next day, right? But I think you can have a certain perspective
Yeah.
that gives you a pretty big canvas to paint on, but people are attracted to you because of your honesty, because of your urgency, because of your humanity, because of your humor, because of your storytelling. So I think you can differentiate yourself by really having the courage to add you to the story.
100%. 100%. Okay, I have to ask you about the books. I'm glad that you brought this up. You are very prolific in how many books that you have already released to the wild, to the world. When you approach, that first page, like, again, is there a really strategic undertaking where, like, I know the book that I want to write because it's going to lead me to this nature of business on the other side of the book? Or is it a book of passion versus business oriented? I'm very curious how you approach your personal branding from the book, the author perspective.
I approach it all wrong.
I love it. I love it.
For me, and I think this shows up in my books, it's passion. It's just
Okay.
like, it has to be, because
Yeah.
I'm going to devote 2 years of my life to this.
Yeah.
And in some ways I imperil my business. I guess maybe some ways I enhance my business, in some ways I imperil my business, because I do not go into it thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to create this all new consulting thing. And let me give you the stupidest example in the
Please.
history
I
of
love stupid
in the
examples.
history of stupid examples.
Great.
So I wrote the first book on influence marketing. I wrote this in 2012 before anybody was even mentioning this. And I said, at the end of the book, I predicted within 2 years, influence marketing will be a mainstream marketing strategy. If you go to Google Trends
Bet.
and say influence marketing or influencer marketing, 2012, when I wrote the book, nothing. 2014, hockey stick, right?
Everything. Yep.
Now, I could have been the man for influence marketing. I could have created the greatest influence marketing agency in the world, and I would have been bored to death.
Yeah.
I had no interest. I had no, what fascinated me is I saw this idea. I saw this opportunity light up like a runway at O'Hare. It's just like I saw this vision that power is shifting in the world, that influence is being democratized, and this is going to change marketing forever. And so Tom Peters told me once, he said, I talked to him a couple of years ago, and he said, "Oh, Mark, I'm retiring." 2 years later, he wrote another book. I said, "Tom, I thought you were retired."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm desperate to get my ideas out. I just don't feel like people have heard me yet." And that's the way it is with me. It's just like, I'm desperate. I just know this, when I write a book, it is going to solve a big problem. It's going to touch people in a new way. It's going to, every single page is going to inspire them, or educate them in some way. And that's why the book, for me, it can't just be about selling stuff to people. It unleashes.
Has to have heart.
Yeah, it's got to have heart. It's got to have
It's gotta have
soul.
heart.
It's got to be bold. It's got to be beautiful. And so by the time I'm done writing the book, I'm completely exhausted. There's nothing left. I put everything. I can't sleep when I'm writing. I literally can't sleep because my mind is going so fast. And I wake up in the middle of the night with ideas from the book, and I'll have to get up and write them. And yeah, it's a mess.
Well, no, it's a beautiful mess. I love that because it is books are a massive undertaking and an enormous amount of time and resources, mental resources to do this. And so if it's just solely for business growth, I think it comes through. And then the books that some of my favorite books in the whole world, it just has heart and soul in it. And then you, even without knowing you, we're best friends in my mind because I just
Yeah,
resonate with the things
yeah,
that
I
you
get
care
that.
about, that I care about.
Yeah,
I can step into your values by reading your book, you
I
know?
get that a lot,
Uh,
especially people listen to the
yeah.
audiobook. They'll say
Yeah.
they hear my voice
Yeah.
and they'll say, "I feel like you're my friend. I feel like that I know you."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what's so important about something, in an element of your personal brand is that like that connection with messenger more than even the message sometimes is like it's the MasterCard commercial, it's like priceless. How do you put a value to that? But it won't ever happen unless you put yourself out there. Hey, Rainmakers, it's Veronica, and we'll get back to today's episode. But before that, I have an exciting invitation for all of you aspiring, ambitious marketing leaders. If you are serious about advancing your career in marketing and you're looking for an expert to give you some personal insights, guidance, tips, then I'm going to invite you to schedule a free Pathway to Promotion call with me. This is a special one-on-one call with just you and me to discuss your current roadblocks in your career, your long-term aspirations and ambition, and the next best step for you and your personal promotion. Head to pathwaycall.com or click the link in my show notes to schedule your free Pathway to Promotion call. Now back to today's episode. Speaking of putting yourself out there, I have a hard time imagining you in a previous chapter form of your life where you struggled with imposter syndrome or bouts of self-confidence. This is something anytime I get on a one of those initial like discovery calls or what we call pathway calls for people who are wanting to go bigger and work on their careers and their brands and things like that, one of the things that is always found within the forms the intake forms is either lack of self-confidence,
Yeah,
imposter syndrome, self-sabotage.
yeah.
And so I love asking people who are, I mean, to me, like you got a pinnacle of your career, you're doing phenomenal, but take me back to the space, the room, the chapter in your life where you too struggled with self-confidence, imposter syndrome, because everybody does in varying degrees. If you did, how did you overcome it? I want to be taken to that space with you, if that's okay.
I would say I've never really had it. Sorry to disappoint
Yeah.
you, but
No,
but here's
please.
why. Here's why. I've thought a lot about this.
Okay.
So I think there's two things in my life. Is number
Please.
one, when
Mhm.
I was a child, my family moved around a lot.
Okay.
So I was always going to new schools and I hated it and I was afraid and I had no friends. And every
Mhm.
time I went through that disruption, it was okay.
Mhm.
It worked out.
Mhm.
I ended up fitting in. It was okay.
Mhm.
The other thing is that in my corporate career, I worked for a company that they were wonderful.
Mhm.
They just they gave me every opportunity. Throughout my career, I was always the youngest person in the room.
Wow.
And it was like year after year, I just thought, what am I doing here? What what am I doing here? I
Yeah.
don't belong here. I mean, I'm 24 and everybody
Mhm.
else here
Mhm.
has silver hair. But my company believed in me and they pushed me.
Mhm.
And I just went
Mhm.
through that enough to kind of know I can do it. I do belong here.
Mm.
And today in my career, I mean, I've worked hard. I've blogged 680 weeks in a row. And then I took a little break for COVID. And now I've blogged another 150 weeks in a row. I've had a podcast for 11 years. I've never missed an episode. I speak and I've written books and I've put so much out there that when someone invites me and honors me to be on a podcast like you've done today, in my mind, I kind of think, I deserve to be here. I've worked really hard for Veronica to be here, to be on her
Yeah.
show. And
Yeah.
and so I don't feel like that I don't deserve it. I feel like I've worked really, really hard. We talked about this about the books and how I have this, it's all about passion. But something else about the books is that when you write a book, it's like getting a new master's degree. I research and write a book for 2 years. I research and write about one subject for 2 years. My new book is about community as a brand marketing strategy. When I started, I was not an expert, but I am now.
Now you are. Absolutely you are.
I spent more time over the last 2 years researching and writing this, probably greater than any human being on earth. I completely immersed myself in it. So now I'm confident about something new.
Sure.
So just the act of creating, whether it's a blog or a podcast, if someone invited you on a podcast, here you are, you're in your studio, it's going to be natural to you because you're honing your skills. So I've been honing and honing and honing. I mean, when I started out as a professional speaker, I was terrified, but you do it and you do it and you do it. And pretty soon they start laughing at your jokes and you think, yeah, I belong here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If I showed you my early speaking tapes, I would stalk the stage like a tiger in a cage. I would just like pace it. Cause it was just so much like energy within my body. Yeah. But
I teach a class on Maven about becoming a professional speaker. And that's one of the things I talk about that is a sure sign of nerves. So
100%.
When you get up on the stage, every move has to be intentional. You plant yourself, then every move has to be intentional. That drives me crazy. It's like watching a bouncing ball.
No, I know. And the cameraman can't keep up. It's just like making everybody nauseous.
Making everybody dizzy.
Yeah. No, I know. And I'm thinking, I'm like killing this in my high heels and, the tight dress. And nope, I'm just like stalking it like a prey. I've worked on it, trust me. But I want to go back to what you were saying. I think what's resonating with me from what you just shared is that very young, you developed a healthy relationship with fear. I think that's a misconception. I don't think that you ever stop being scared.
Right.
But I think the way that you embrace the fear changes with maturity, with the time, with the receipts of proof of evidence of hard work. And so like for me, even when I look back at my early career, I mean, I'm still, a process. I'm still very much in the making of everything.
We all are.
But like, absolutely. Right. But like when I think back at like when I was the youngest, person in my corporate boardrooms, or the only female, that was constant too. There was a lot of proving energy for me. I wanted to prove myself desperately. There was, I could feel that kind of permeating through my body. Right. Now, fast forward, I've been a marketer for 15 years since, gosh, I worked at ancestry.com when I was 20 years old. I was a baby. Right. And so now fast forward 15 plus years, I don't have that same proving energy. Like it's not the same flavor, but it is like what I call like the Tom Cruise energy. So like, and I'm not comparing myself to Tom Cruise. Let me be very clear. But when Tom Cruise does anything, the expectations are of the highest.
Yeah.
Like if he's gonna come back and do Top Gun sequel all these decades later, it's going to be the greatest, biggest movie in the box office imaginable.
Right.
And so I don't have a proving energy. I have almost like the performance energy. Like I don't have to prove myself, but I want to kill it. Right. I want to live up to the hype. I want the movie to exceed expectations.
Right.
And I would be lying to anyone if I said that didn't come with a fear, like the fear of not living up to the hype of whatever someone's expectations are. But that's not the same thing as proving that I know what I'm talking about. That's done for me. And so even when I reflect back at my career in resonating with what you just shared about yours, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of parallels that I have found in mine as well. So I really just appreciate you sharing that story.
I've never really heard it described that way, but I think you're really dead on. And I think that comes with experience and maturity, that you move from proving to performing. It's a matter of pride. And that's the way it is with me. It's like, I have this fear of when I write a book that someone will leave a review and say, well, Mark's a really smart guy, but the big dummy forgot this. I never want to have that. I never want to have that review. So that's why it's got to be the best. It's got to be the best. And the same way,
and you'll put in the time to do it, right?
The same way when I'm speaking. I mean, one of the things I teach in my speaking class is the importance of rehearsal. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you know when you're ready? You're ready
Mm-hmm.
when you're sick of yourself. When you
That's
literally
really good.
can't think about doing it one more
Yeah.
time, now you're ready
Yeah.
because you've given
Yeah.
everything you've got till you're sick of it. Now you're ready to
Yeah.
go on the stage.
Yeah. When your jokes are no longer clever. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm so sick of myself. That's actually a really good litmus test. Like, you're ready when you're just done listening to your own
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
I
Because
appreciate
you at
that.
that point you own it.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. You're a joy, like an absolute joy. I really have truly enjoyed this conversation in so many ways.
Likewise.
One of the things, well, yeah, good. I'm happy. That makes me happy. One of the things that we do is we leave the last and final question for you to ask me whatever it is that you would like to ask me and put me on the hot seat because I asked you questions that you were not prepared for. So it's only fair.
What's the title of your new book?
Okay. Did you see the reaction
What a
if you're
look on your
watching
face.
this?
Folks, she really slapped her forehead.
Yeah, no, because I have an aspiration to put my words out there in the universe and just to have it. And I've yet to do it. And so I look at book authors like you and I'm like, yeah, that's the goal here. So my first book that I'm currently penning is called, at least at this very present moment, and yes, I've already purchased the domain, just to be clear, is called The Rise of the Rainmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing is, in order for marketers to make it, they have to embody, accept the identity of a rainmaker, which is not the same thing as a title that is given to you by a corporation or by a business card, but it's a true identity of self-mastery. And so the book is that. It's this paradigm shift between somebody else giving you validation and you giving yourself your own level of validation through self-mastery, called Rainmaker. So that's
Good.
what I'm
Make
on.
a great speech too.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. Hopefully, I mean, all the things, like I'm not waiting or holding my breath to like get out there and do workshops and speaking engagements, and like it's like a great comedian. So before you do the Netflix special,
Yeah.
you're going to start rehearsing the material in the small, dirty clubs in Washington, D.C. or New York.
Yeah.
And so it's the same idea. It's like, I want to make sure that these, principles or beliefs or practices, have the receipts before I put it in the book, so that if I ever do get that negative review, it doesn't destroy my confidence because that's just one person's opinion.
Yeah. Well, everybody gets negative reviews.
But we don't forget them.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
I think I have the right personality for this business though, because I always think when people like harass me or give me negative reviews, I just think you just don't know me. If you knew me, you'd know I'm just a guy trying to do good work, and so why would you hate somebody that does that, right?
Yeah. How can you hate on someone whose intentions are pure?
Yeah.
Right. I love that. Okay, Mark, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can people, and we'll drop all your links in the show notes for anybody that wants to go to the show notes, but how can people connect with you, work with you, just, collaborate with you?
Well, it's really easy to find me. You don't even have to remember how to spell Schaefer, which is like 15 different ways. If you can remember businesses grow, plural businesses, businessesgrow.com, you can find me and my books and my blog and my podcast and my social connections. I follow everybody back on LinkedIn, so I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and I will do an extra plug. Your website is one of the best examples of a personal brand website for a marketer. So I have to say,
thanks.
I do. I love it. Actually, I loved it. I loved how it was all laid out. I loved all of the, where you've spoken, who it was fantastic. Your patents, all those things was fantastic. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark, for being on today's Rainmaker podcast.
Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you for joining us on today's Rainmaker podcast. Marketers help other marketers. So if there's a marketer in your life who could really use a new perspective in a way that helps them advance their career, please pass this episode forward, share, leave us a review. Everything helps as we embark on helping as many marketers elevate themselves inside and out. You can always visit veronicarami.com for today's show notes, additional links to some free resources and tools for you to help you advance your career. You can always connect with us on social media at @ViaRami if you want more behind the scenes or a way for us to connect personally. Until next time, my friends, make it rain.